Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
He really is a man who needs no introduction. Russell Means. Just an amazing life, and didn't like to talk about himself, but he is what the LA Times described him as the most famous American Indian since Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse. I would say much better known because of all the films and activism and things he's done. And he joins us. He's been with us 4 or 5 times before, but he now joins us through video cam from the Lakotah Nation that has pulled out of the treaty that the federal government has broken a trillion times. He joins us from there, and I have to tell you, he is just so informed on the whole New World Order structure. So we're going to get his take on now 21 states saying they are going to secede if the feds try martial law or gun confiscation. That's in the bills. The Lakotah Nation is saying that they're not going along with the tyranny. They've got the strongest case because the treaty's been violated, even stronger than the states. This is so exciting. So Russell Means, great to have you with us.
Great to be with you again, Alex.
I tell you, this is like Buck Rogers getting to have you, on simulcast on TV with us.
It's unbelievable.
Well, here we are. There's so much I want to talk about in the 50 minutes we have with you, but you've got the floor. What would you like to speak about first? There's so many things I want to get into, but what would you like to speak about first?
Well, first of all, I'd like to speak about liberty and freedom. Being free is the most important antidote to everything and anything else that's going on, to any kind of conspiracy, to everything. It's being free, and being free together. Not being free according to the Constitution of the United States, although that's a pretty good document. It comes from us, as you know, or you should know. But
yes,
the most important thing about being free is individual sovereignty, individual freedoms, and the guarantees thereof. And the only way you can do that really is through consensus, because voting, as you've witnessed how the beautiful idea of freedom the United States of America was born with, has been corrupted because they've turned a republic and individual freedom into a democracy, which means mob rule. 50% plus 1 is mob rule. And the worst thing about it is that the other 49.9% have to go along with the majority for a certain length of time. You haven't any options. That's not sovereignty. That is not being free.
That's right. Hitler used democracy to set up tyranny, and 51% said the rest of you are going to be our slaves. We're going to kill a bunch of you. In a republic, every person's liberty and freedom is guarded because of the organic rights. And as the Declaration of Independence states, that if the government becomes destructive of those aims, it is not our right. It is our duty to throw it off. And I can think of no other group that has as strong a case to throw it off as Native Americans.
Right, and that's why we unilaterally withdrew from our treaties with the United States of America after over 155 years of violations. So we finally threw off that yoke. We're on the brink of extinction ourselves, and that is the major reason we are now free. And we're free with non-Indians also. We are welcoming any and all peoples who want to be free and want to work for freedom in the Republic of Lakotah, which is that 5-state area in the northern plains. But there's a thing about America that we must begin to teach the whole scope of this, what is termed now a conspiracy. Because it began really back in the 1840s, less than 75 years after the formation of the United States of America, when they gave the power of the individual to corporations, but none of the penalties. None of the penalties. Consequently, the corporations began to take off. But when Congress committed treason in 1871, that's really the watermark of the beginnings of the conspiracy, because the 1871 Act created the corporation which we are now enslaved under, or you are all enslaved under, because we're no longer there. The point of the 1871 Act was a treasonous act by Congress which established the United States of America as a corporation. And the Constitution of the United States was established at that time, because previously our republic was guaranteed by the Constitution for the United States. Key word there. Then you go on to 1913 and those other years, the Income Tax Act, the Antitrust Act, and the various other acts that established the Fed and established the bankers' control of our entire nation and its people within, and made us slaves. And then you get to 1933, and off the gold standard, the Social Security National ID number was established. And then you get into the industrial military complex, which was cemented into place after World War II, and with the No Such Agency Act of 1948, which was, by the way, the National Security Agency. If you remember, I can, because I'm that old. I can remember when it was called No Such Agency, because to this day no one knows the real power or the scope of that agency, or even its budget. Not even Congress knows its budget. And then you have the subsequent acts and the conspiracies that we've all come to know and abhor right now, and what we're living under.
I was just going to interject and have you continue with that timeline. They've now announced the National Security Council, through the NSA and the rest of it, is openly running the entire government, that the governors in PDD 51, the John Warner Defense Authorization Act, serve at the pleasure of the president. People thought Obama was going to end all this. He's expanding it. Bush passed the baton. They put in their Judas goat to fool people, and I'd like to get your view on that. And now they're openly announcing the FEMA camps. They're openly announcing bills to basically ban guns. And I mean, you pointed out yourself, they brought in Social Security to domesticate us, to put everybody on the reservation. You know, how they want us dependent, how they want us domesticated, how they want us institutionalized. And then they always call that right wing to say that. No, it's not right or left. This is so I'd like you to speak to that specifically and the dark times we see unfolding right now. But at the same time, the positive things that are happening, because resistance is accelerating and people are rediscovering liberty and freedom and finding out they don't have a choice. They're going to have to fight.
You know, back in the 1970s, right here on the Pine Ridge Sioux Indian Reservation, all of a sudden, for reasons it will never be explained or explainable, I started receiving quarterly reports from the Trilateral Commission in the U.S. mail. I don't know how I got it or why, and then it lasted for about a year and a half, and it disappeared. But in those quarterly reports, it was phenomenal how they know everything about everything financial in the world. The IMF and the World Bank, which is the credit agencies for every country, and they had a category called quasi-money. I've since come to understand what quasi-money is. It's you and me. It's our Social Security number. It's what enslaves us to all these financial packages the bankers who are running the world have put together. But Obama, listen, Obama is the good cop. They had the bad cop, good cop. This country now, it's mass psychology to its nth. You know, George Orwell nailed it back in the 1940s with his books. But the point, we're in that George Orwellian reality, is the good cop now has made everyone feel, now I was just in Texas, by the way, my friend, and best-selling down there is those plates. I couldn't believe it in Texas. The plates of Obama with that Jesus Christ pose. You know, it's like this. And he's looking up, a slight smile. The sun is shining on him, and it makes his skin look bronze or even goldish. But it's the Jesus Christ pose. That's what I call it. And that's the way they're treating him. I talked with some Obama supporters there in Houston, and it was unbelievable. They would not listen to reason. It's like they've been fed some kind of Obama dope, and that they're hooked now. And it's, you bring out facts and figures, and they still wouldn't go for it. I can see exactly what he's done. It's almost like he's a drone, that he is some kind of sheeple created especially to pull the cover over. You know, all his appointments are Zionists. All his appointments. I can't name one that isn't. But the point I'm trying to make is that I believe the United States is part of the client state, not only of the bankers, but we're now a client state of Israel and the Mossad. It's unbelievable how all the people in key places, are Zionists. I'm sorry, but the brazen, upfront, and your previous guest mentioned some of those brazen, upfront, and yourself, of what Obama's doing. He blatantly lies to the people, and he's not called down for it. It's amazing. Guantanamo, he's not closing it. He's not withdrawing from Iraq. He's going to increase war in Afghanistan. Goes on and on.
I've always tried to stray away, because it's such hot button issues, to anything that's Protestant, Catholic, Hindu, Native American, because I'm just like, we're all human beings. Let's be friends. And the globalists use that to play us off against each other. But at the same time, when Rahm Emanuel is openly a Mossad operative and in the IDF military, and it calls himself an Israeli first, he's the chief of staff, and they're in a meeting. This is in the New York Times. They're in a meeting in the New York Times, and in front of the Congress, they call the congressional leaders in of both parties, and Rahm's popping his fingers like this right by Obama, and Obama says, "Please stop that, Rahm." And Rahm gets up right in his ear and pops his knuckles in his ears, and that is a sign of dominance. And it really is scary to know that special interests, the big banks out of Europe, Israel, all these groups, that we're just a whorehouse. We're a joke. We're here to just be completely used and abused. So I want you to get into that and then start over, because the music interrupted you with how Obama has already betrayed everything in just a month.
Okay, fine.
So, we're still live. Go ahead.
Well, Obama, as I mentioned, he's not closing Guantanamo, maybe in a year. He's not withdrawing from Iraq because of the situation there and the Iraqi freedom and the voting and the democracy. I mean, come on. You got the largest embassy in the world, bar none, and it's ostentatious. It's like a palace. So why are you going to leave? You're never going to leave. Afghanistan, they're already pouring new troops in there. And they're making, and Obama did this on the campaign trail. He named Pakistan. He's going in militarily into Pakistan. That's an Islamic country with the bomb. So it has to be taken over. And he will take it over. Mark my words. But he is, when I was growing up, the used car salesman was the epitome example of being slick con man. Well, this guy, and I heard your previous guest mention about how he is so smooth on going from teleprompter to teleprompter to teleprompter. And the people don't know it that are watching it on TV, but he is trained. He's very well trained. And I think he might even be a clone. It's not beyond my comprehension, I'll tell you.
No, there's something robotic about him. I mean, it's just so fake. And for anybody who's got discernment, you see right through it and you go, whoa, this is dangerous. This is, I mean, because, you have this little demon bush who even looks like a goblin and, is obviously evil and it does all, you can see how it was scripted. And then it turns out his mother worked for Tim Geithner's dad at a big foundation and is totally globalist, and they've been grooming him since he was a kid. That's now on record. And his first job was for Henry Kissinger. And so certainly he's been trained since he was a child for this role.
I believe so. The other thing is look how they've now got so much control of the world. China has now announced that they're going to continue buying T-bills. This country has been so emptied out. You go to Europe, you go to Germany or the Netherlands or even the British Islands, and they're still manufacturing. They're still making shoes. They're still making clothes. They have a garment industry, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They have fishing industries. Where are we at? Where there's nothing that we can fall back on. All we have is a bunch of Social Security slaves that are minimum wage and that they keep knocking it down.
Please start back over with what you were saying a minute ago about being in Europe compared to the United States and how that ties into what was done to Native Americans, what was done to other Aboriginal groups around the world as a mode of siege, a mode of control. The globalists admit they've deindustrialized us by design. Please break it down.
Well, to break it down, it's Indian policy. The Americans are now the new Indians of the 21st century, and the United States is the reservation. You look, the farmers and the family farmers and family ranchers, the backbone of independence and the backbone of Americanism, are the ones that have been systematically destroyed at least since the decade of the 60s. Now, as America was being emptied out. Now they turned this, and this is just fact, that in the late 50s they began turning America from a productive country with a powerful people called unions that were the biggest threat politically to the hierarchy of the United States of America. So in 1950, they got Walter Reuther and all them to sell out the unions. That's not the point, though. The point is they began emptying out America. Our garment industry, the shoe industry, every industry, the fishing industry, the steel industry, every industry you can think of. Then they started importing the Toyotas and those foreign corporations in to further destroy our own industries. And then having done that, we're empty. We're slaves now, minimum wage slaves. The middle class has been decimated. Look at, and we're not hearing about it. We've got to have some kind of a mass movement. And Alex, you're about the only one. I mean, not the only one, but I know you are one of the most important ones that we can get this mass movement going. We're doing our thing for freedom here in the Republic of Lakotah, but we have to reinstill the idea of responsibility into Americans. Because once you become an Indian on a reservation, you have no motive. And the family farmers, the family ranchers, they're almost extinct now because of the credit crunch. They have been groomed, the family farmers, family ranchers, to run their entire operations on this phony credit operation of the United States, and now they've withdrawn the credit. So the family farmer, family rancher, dead in America. Which means America is dead.
I agree. I mean, my family are farmers and ranchers, and they had to go get jobs in the 50s because of the way the government changed everything and took it over. They all had to work in jobs in town and then work just to not lose their land. And they had to sell off more and more. And now with the animal ID, the premises ID, they're written by the big agribusiness. It openly shuts down farms, ranches. They're almost gone. And once you lose that, we have 90% people are urban and 10% are rural, but only half of those, or 5% of the population, is self-sufficient. And we have globalist documents where they state they wanted to do this, and now they've done this. And I was just down in Mexico a few weeks ago, in Yucatan, and I said, I don't see fishing boats here like I saw last time I was here 5 years ago. And they said, no, the government has banned us fishing. Only the big trawlers from Japan and the U.S. can come. And I went into to the village and asked, I said, there's no people here. And they said, no, we're not allowed to fish now. So see, it's the same thing they did to the Native Americans.
Right. And it's you take the means of production away from a people, and what do you have left? You have slaves, minimum wage slaves.
Well, they use.
And I have mentioned now that China has just announced that they're going to start buying treasury bills again. Treasury bills are secured by the land of America. Now, already China owns 40%. Saudi Arabia owns 20% of the T-bills. So together they own 60% of the land of America. Now, however, because America is so broke and running this phony economy, printing this phony money, is that if they wanted to collect on their T-bills right now, America and the dollar would go bust and broke, and we would have to take a wheelbarrow full just to buy a toothpick.
Russell Means, stay there. We got a break. How are they keeping the indigenous Mayans from fishing? The environment. The big bottom trawlers can come and do it, but the natives, they can't fish. See, that's the phony environmentalism Obama's bringing in. We'll get Russell Means' take on that. Stay with us. Thanks to a listener idea, we've come up with a great new T-shirt where you can maybe deprogram Obamanoids. Just like the Bush people. I tried to explain he was New World Order and evil, and they would think I was a communist. And I would say, no, he's a puppet. He's controlled. But they had invested their image of themselves, their identity in this person that was developed and created by the very corporate slave state that's destroying all of our futures and openly say they want to euthanize and engage in eugenics. And if you don't think they'll do it, look what they've done to Native Americans and others. We had a pastor on last week who exposed, and it's even ended up in mainstream Canadian press after 10 years of him fighting, that they take the Native American children in Canada and still, they just kill them. Half the boys they take, the foster care, they take them, they grab them, they use the churches, and it's government control, and they just murder them. Murder little kids, and it's on record, and nobody gets in trouble. Nothing happens. It's sick, but they want to do it to everybody. It's any group. See, with the Native Americans, they could tell people they were different or they're causing a problem. You know, they're different from us. Let's kill them. But then the killing also happens to those that helped do the killing or their ancestors. That's how this works. But here's the new shirt. It says on the cover here, it says worst president ever. And it's one half of the face is George Bush. And on the other half, it's Obama. It says, until now, Infowars.com. And on the back, it says, don't be a sucker. And this will explain to everybody and get past the controlled left-right paradigm. We've got some other new Obama shirts that just went up, and pre-orders for the Obama deception just began. And it's about getting the information out. It's also about supporting the show so we can have a platform to support other great activists and humanitarians. And speaking of that, Mr. Means, before we get into other issues and where you think things are going in the future, tell us about the Lakotah Nation, the 4.5 or 5 state area, what has happened, how people get involved. This will materialize if people join, if people get involved, if people spread the word, if people financially support. And I can't think of a better leader than yourself, going through the situation that you went with in the 71-day armed takeover of the sacred grounds of Wounded Knee with the feds, all the things you've been through as a leader. I'm glad that you're leading the charge on this. So tell us how the people of not just the United States, but the world can be involved in this historic Declaration of Independence and pulling out of the fraudulent contract. And this dovetails with 21 states now saying they're going to pull out of the Union if martial law or gun confiscation continues. So, I mean, this is a spirit, isn't it, that's rising?
Oh, it's overdue. It's overdue. And even including ourselves. But what we recognize in the Republic of Lakotah is that 90% of the population in the 60 million acres that makes up this 5-state area, a part of North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, and Nebraska. This area is 90% non-Indian, 90% white people. We understand because for 150 years we've been getting along with them. We've been living with them. We have to continue that. So we invite them to join the Republic of Lakotah. It's not a racial independent movement. This is a people's independence movement, except we want to do it according to our understanding of individual liberty. and our understanding. But nevertheless, we want to give state power to neighborhoods so that they have all responsibility for what goes on in their neighborhood. And I don't care how big the neighborhood is. And then you have a collection of neighborhoods that make up an area, and then the area, and then finally you get the nation. But the point is, your point is, if you have a neighborhood of 2 houses or 20 houses or 200 houses, fine. But you run everything in that neighborhood. What does that mean? You have to run it by consensus, number one, to ensure individual liberty. Number two is you definitely have to bring about law and order. That's responsibility. Guess what happens then? You eliminate the need for police because in your neighborhood you're taking care of it. You eliminate the need for courts and judges, and best of all, you eliminate the need for lawyers.
Well, that's the system they've had in Switzerland, some of what was founded here in the United States, and that really is, at least for a lot of the tribes, based on a Native American system.
Yes, that's based upon our control of individual liberty. Is that?
Let me ask you a question. What would you do if, let's say, you're a neighborhood or what you call a village of, say, 400 houses, and somebody commits a murder?
Well, those 400 houses would take care of that. Not the nation, not the larger area. Those 400 houses, they would have already determined their justice system according to them. You're a mini state within a state, and it's like posse comitatus laws that used to be prevalent in this United States of America.
Well, that's how small towns were in the United States. Was they would have their court, their system, and they would deal out justice.
Well, because Americans have become the new Indians of the 21st century, and they've become actually reservation Indians because they've abdicated their responsibility. They've allowed the Congress of the United States of America to eradicate posse comitatus laws. Listen, these two bedrock avenues of individual liberty is, one, the sheriff of every county at one time was the top law official in the nation because they were elected. And then those sheriffs, any police agency anywhere from any place, had to get permission of the sheriff to come in that county. That was just eradicated in the last 3 years by Congress. The other thing is, with the corporate laws, we have to get rid of the rights of corporations. It's abominable and the height of stupidity to give a corporation a piece of paper the same rights that we have as individuals, but none of the penalties.
Well, Russell, this is what we need. We need to get back. Imagine if people got into self-sufficiency, it would create an incredible economy if every little neighborhood together had their own wind power, their own solar panels, put in their own septic tanks, their own systems, like the Amish. Take the Amish. There's almost 300,000 of them in Illinois. They've done a study over 200,000 of them. No autism, much lower crime rate. In fact, no crime to speak of. They live in harmony because they're living in a natural way, and the state's coming in and kidnapping their kids now. The state had left the Amish alone. Now they're treating them like Native Americans in the 1870s. So we, to defend ourselves, we need to go back to being our own little communities. And if you don't like the neighborhood, the village you're in, you go find another one you like to move to.
Exactly. And that's the epitome of individual freedom. Is local control. You know, the jury system used to be the last vestige against state power. When you had jury nullification, you could nullify an existing law if the jury felt it didn't apply to that individual case. So any law could be nullified by 12 citizens, responsible citizens. But we've got to reinstitute, if we're going to be a free people, we have to reinstitute in the minds of our people the idea of responsibility. It's your responsibility to find out about who really is running this country, who really is Obama, where did he come from, And why? Why did he move from being a Harvard law graduate, editor of the Harvard Law Review? He had his pick of any legal firm he could go to in New York City, Chicago, Washington, D.C. He could have been a clerk for a Supreme Court justice. But what did he do? He goes to a city he never lived in, never even visited, Chicago, to work among the poor, allegedly, as a lawyer. And where did they put him? They put him in the most connected church in the black community. Also, they gave him a political mentor, the local black political boss of the south side of Chicago. And there you have his path right to the White House.
In fact, Russell, I mean, there were a lot of cases because I've read a lot of U.S. history. I mean, that was classic that as Western expansion was taking place, that's how they would defeat the Native Americans, is they would go pay off some of the bad chiefs to get them to tell their people to stand down. And so people can't get that there's a guy who's, part black that somehow, he, isn't a sellout to the New World Order. I mean, it's asinine. I mean, look, it's just on its face. And then now they're going to continue the secret arrest. They're going to continue. Now they're saying 23 months in Iraq. It was 6, then 16, now 23. 30,000 more troops, up to 60 in Afghanistan. Now they're talking about 90,000. He's talking about going into Iran, going into Pakistan. They're building FEMA camps, and it's in the news, and he wants to have a giant 18 to 24 compulsory service and a new domestic army. No law. The Pentagon just announced it as a new order, and they're building a camp outside Austin, Russell. I mean, this is really happening.
Exactly, and it's also they've gotten rid of the laws protecting us against the National Army. Now the Department of Defense has jurisdiction, thanks to Homeland Security, has jurisdiction in any legal jurisdiction in the United States of America. That never before was possible, but now it is. The Army can come in for any reason. Before it was illegal.
Well, that's right. First, it was 4,000 troops, then 20,000 troops. Now they're saying, 50,000 troops. Northcom and the governors are no longer over the National Guard. And the Army Times states, we are preparing to engage the American people. Is that not high treason and the government breaking its treaty through the Constitution and Bill of Rights with the people? Because that's a treaty with those colonies. It's the same thing. They've completely broken the treaty, admitted it themselves, and are saying, according to Time magazine in this New World Order article, the title is New World Order. Zoom in on this, folks. It says a foreign global bank will rule the United States now. I mean, it's incredible.
That was institutionalized in 1913, the banks ruling America. And we got to remember that when we went, and I mentioned this earlier, that we were a producing, productive country up until the end of the 50s, 1950s, and then they started the switcheroo to making us consumers and emptying out all the production of America. They've emptied that out, and it took them less than 25 years. By the mid-'80s, we were a consumer nation. That's why Bush could say, go shopping. It's because that's what this country runs on now, consumerism.
Because they want you dependent on them, just like the Native Americans. And I know you're the expert on this, but I'm telling the listeners, I'd like you to elaborate and then tell folks the phone number and websites. I want to put his website up on screen, guys, so that people can join and get involved or support or learn more. That they would put people in these areas, they would control them, and you had to then, like welfare, get your food and blankets from the corrupt Indian agents who would then make the natives for even food when they're starving in the winter, hooker out their women, everything. I mean, it's the same thing today.
It is exactly the same thing. The Indian policies of America, the American Indian policies, have morphed first into their foreign policies, and now it's on their domestic policies. So it's just not in the ghettos and the barrios. It's in middle America. I mean, hello? Look at the housing crisis. That wiped out the middle class. And now you're going to become paupers, and you're going to have to depend on the federal government for them to dole out your food, for them to dole out. And then all these new diseases that keep coming, how come they're related to things we eat? figure that out. Just figure that out. But we've got to be responsible, and we're all responsible for our own freedom. Not how and what we eat, but our freedom comes first. Our freedom comes before eating. Our freedom comes before work. Our freedom is the most important part of life. And if you don't know that, then you are a sheeple.
Because everything flows out of liberty. If you don't have the freedom, the liberty, it's over. But you know, a lot of folks I have on claim, you know, the core is our group. You know, the core model is what happened to us. You know, people tend to centralize things around themselves. But I've studied broad history. And when you say that so much of the modern world system is based on the experience of the enslavement and extermination of 90+% of Native Americans, it's true. I've read the British reports. I read Hitler's speeches and Mein Kampf and his concentration camps and everything he did, what he did in Russia. It was all modeled after what was done to the natives, and that's been used all over the world, and it really is the model. And so that's what we're black folks saying. You can't have a man in the house. The government's going to give you money for your home to put them in an inner city so they can then ship in drugs, put the men in prison, knowing the family would break down. I've got slave manuals written in the time of Julius Caesar when they would grab Germanic slaves of how they broke up the family, separated the men, put them on reservations to break them down. It's the same thing over and over again.
One of the hardest things about, and the best things about liberty and being free is you become family oriented. Now, I'm not talking about blood family. I'm talking about now once we become adults, we can choose our own family. You know, when we're born, we're not born into our family of choice. But when you're being free, you can choose your families. And if you look at Europe today, after all their tumultuous history, but they haven't emptied out their countries. They still make their own shoes, their own clothes, grow their own crops, make their own steel, and have all of the things necessary for a strong, vibrant country by itself, let alone being joining together in the European Union. But America, emptied out. America's emptied out. That is not freedom, and that's not responsibility. Responsibility and freedom are one and the same. So if you're welcome to the Republic of Lakotah, if you're responsible.
Absolutely. Tell folks the best website to visit and a phone number.
Of course, the republicoflakotah.com and russellmeansfreedom.com.
russellmeansfreedom.com. We've got that up on screen right now.
Thank you. The phone number for the Republic of Lakotah is 605-867-1111. 1111.
So that's 605-867-1111?
Correct.
605-867-1111. And if folks want to financially support or support by spreading the word, they can go to Russell Means Freedom. Again, give that website out one more time. We're going to put it up on screen.
russellmeansfreedom.com and republicoflakotah.com.
Well, it's so important that we support every movement for independence and liberty. The globalists want one huge world with every nation, in their own words, dependent, broken down, deindustrialized, so the globalists can consolidate power. It's in their own IMF and World Bank documents. We must do what you're doing and go in the opposite direction. It is our only salvation for survival, and we've got to do it now. Russell, I'm going to skip this break as well for the TV viewers and the Infowars.com audio listeners. For the AM and FM dial, shortwave, and the satellite listeners, we'll be back in 3 short minutes. And Russell, we got to have you on for a couple hours coming up in the next month or two so we can take some phone calls and also get more of your great wisdom, as it's just really great to have you on. And I totally agree with everything you're saying, and I want to support you in any way I can. I know my listeners do as well.
With food prices soaring to all-time highs.
John, we're going to skip this break. Okay, great. We're skipping this one, too. Russell, when we come back to the full audience, and we've got a lot of folks listening and watching right now as well, what are some of the final points you think are most important to make to the viewers and listeners?
Well, as we tell all the people who contact us and they want to move to the Republic of Lakotah, and you're free, you can buy your own land. We even have people who are connected with the real estate we have to work towards freedom because we're non-threatening, we're non-militant, and we don't believe in any kind of violence whatsoever. We're willing to work with the existing system. We've already established our own school, treaty school, just one, but it's going to grow. Everything is going to grow. We have a nucleus of people who have moved here and have bought land, and other people are in the process of buying land and moving here. And what we're going to do is work in our own communities to be self-sufficient. We live in the Saudi Arabia of wind energy, and the sun shines on the northern plains over 300 days of the year. So we have that power. We also have on our land, and it's reachable, is the geothermal water. So we can hothouse, we can fish farm, and we can hothouse vegetables all year long because of the sun and that possibility.
I was just going to add, nothing's done without action. And I love these armchair quarterbacks say, oh, it won't work. It'll never happen. It'll never work and happen if people don't believe it and take action. As this crisis comes, we need to be there with the solutions so people have an escape valve. And, I know you've built things and done things and been successful in life, so you know the power of humanity. And I've been somewhat successful in my life. And that's why I want others out there to have respect for themselves and realize that to dream is destiny and that action is victory. And so that, even if you just move out in the country with your friends and family somewhere else, the point is get off the grid, get self-sufficient, join together, because true wealth is your friends, your family, your neighbors, your community, and the willingness to stand together and to fight, because we're going into great time of tribulation. We're going to come back to the full audience, Russell, and I want to ask you one more question about Obama, to a message to the suckers out there, because it's so painful to see them being suckered and to see them falling to this deception. So I want to talk about that in closing, and also give out the website and phone number one more time. In fact, guys, make sure, let's get his website address up on screen, not just the website itself. Here we go. Okay, folks, it is the final segment with Russell Means, the final segment of the show. I had a state representative where they're declaring sovereignty in Missouri on today. I had Mark Dice of the Resistance Manifesto on. And, of course, we have Russell Means, just an amazing activist for liberty and freedom. He's been mischaracterized in the press quite a bit, but that tells you he's a good guy. You look at what he actually stands for. I know that he's a guy after my own heart, and we really appreciate him. I want to get him on about eugenics and the overall New World Order and what it's like to come from a group that's been so intensely targeted by this. But in closing, a message to the Obama people who took their hatred of Bush that was legitimate and transmuted it into love for Obama, not knowing it's the same manager crew behind it. They feel like they're at the table now. They feel like they've had a great victory. They don't know they've just been sold a bunch of glass beads and wampum for New York. They don't understand that this is a cold-blooded setup, but we have studied this and looked at this and lived this, so we know they haven't discovered that yet. In closing, what do you say to them?
Well, I want to be facetious, actually, and just say goodbye. But the sheeple that are Obamaites, or however you're going to, they've been Obamatized. Those people, I have found in my visit to Texas, and among my own people here on the reservation, and into the people who are considered conservative Republicans in the state of South Dakota, no one's listening. No one wants to take responsibility. And that's what's happened in this country. And Thomas Jefferson said it best, to be free, you have to be responsible. It goes hand in hand. I can't say it enough. And so I'm very skeptical in saying anything to the sheeple who have been Obamatized, because that's their new savior. You cannot penetrate their defenses because they refuse to hear it. I talked common sense, and I talk spirituality, and I talk facts and figures with these people down in Texas who are Obamatized. and they wouldn't hear a thing, and they felt sorry for me. They felt sorry for me. And they told me, you're going to see in 18 months. What we all don't understand here in America is that it's over. And if the United States of America just came out and said, well, it's over, well, there'd be a rising of the people. They don't want that. So they're manufacturing, they're printing this money so that they can let you down easy. Let you down easily. And those people over there lost their homes. And those people over there lost their homes. And as they let you down easy, and your wages go down, and your livelihood goes down, and your trips become shorter, and you don't buy as much, until the fact is you're going to look around one day, huh?
But they're already committed to him, so they won't even admit they were wrong, just like people under Stalin or Hitler still wouldn't admit they were conned and wrong because they've invested in it. They're going to have right-wing groups attack him. They're going to have Nazis protesting to make him look good. They're going to play a lot of games.
Oh, definitely. They are masters at manipulation. It's an Orwellian reality. And so, but always remember this. And this has always rung true. It only takes 2% of people to foment a successful revolution. And we want a revolution to return one revolution back to freedom of the individual. All right?
All right. Russell, we crashed your website, so we want to give that phone number out again, 605-867-1111, 605-867-1111. Don't go. I want to do a few minutes in overdrive on the web to say bye to you here properly. For the audience, though, retransmission. Well, we're going to continue into overdrive a few minutes, and then we're going to go into retransmission at Infowars.com. So please stay with us. I want to say bye to the Genesis Network and all those listeners. Here we go with Russell Means. Stay with us.
Thank you for listening.
We'll be back.
A day unlike any other in the long course of American history, a terrorist act of war against this country.
The enemy struck America on September 11th. But who is the enemy?
Bin Laden. This is his MO.
We have to look to the Middle East. We have to look to Osama bin Laden.
Fabled enemies is the
Back
first...
in 1 minute, Russell.
Camp out under the stars.
Okay, Russell, you got cut off by the music there at the end. We have a substantive audience watching live at prisonplanet.tv and listening over the streams. And frankly, what you've been saying, I think I'm going to take a little bit of a clip of it and put it in a little Obama thing I'm working on. So I'd like you to repeat that key thing you were saying there at the end that the end of the show cut you off on, please, sir.
Well, wait a minute. What was it?
Hey, in the last minute, I forgot.
Ad hoc. It was.
No, I understand. Well, I mean, just it'll pop in your head in a minute. The point is, they think you're a right-wing extremist, or they think I am, or they think we're secretly Bush people. As I've talked to them, that we're trying to horn in on their fun, and that's what a con artist does. They make them feel like they're part of it. And I've had friends and family that have signed on to Ponzi schemes before. And I've said, look, it's a scam. Don't do it. And they go, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just, upset that I've got a good deal going. And I'm like, no, I've experienced this. This is a scam. And they just can't believe it's happening to him. And he is total New World Order. And like you said, they're like comparing him to Lincoln and George Washington and really putting
their
full power behind.
I can say it in another way. Okay. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I knew it was heartfelt.
Sure, no, I understand. I mean, well, just speak from the heart on, I'm trying to reach out to these people. I know they're being conned. Look at what he's already done.
Okay. The biggest thing about Obama and the Obamanization of the people is they are looking for a savior. But I caution everyone to realize what Einstein said. Einstein said, if you try, his definition of insanity is if you can continually try the same thing over and over and over again, but you expect different results. Every time you try something over again, you expect different results. That's the Demo-publicans. That's what I call the Democrats and the Republicans. Demo-publicans. It's not working. Our individual liberty has been stripped, and if you don't understand that, you've got to grab a hold. Hope is a false word because it keeps you hoping, and you're hoping for the next president. You're hoping for another Obama. You're hoping for another Roosevelt. You're hoping for another Lincoln. And then they give you a guy that is supposed to embody Lincoln, Roosevelt, and Obama. And he's the answer to everything. And all he's doing is printing phony money. Well, he's not doing it, but the people who control him are doing it. You've got to take a look at America.
Russell, have you noticed that every time some old woman's begging, saying, I'm homeless now, I need help, I just want a small place with a bathroom, he'll come over and say, oh, honey, I'm sorry, but hey, everybody's, it's rough. A lot of people have your problem. And he says, get ready for sacrifice so the bankers can take everything over. I mean, this is so dark and so evil, and we have so many resources and so much, and that he knows he's a puppet, and he knows he's betraying them. Let me ask you this final question, and we'll plug the number in the website again for folks that missed it, and then let you go, sir. And I want to invite you in studio anytime you're in Texas here. And if you're nearby, we'll get you a hotel room and pay your way to get here. Maybe that'd be fun to do. But my whole point is this: what is going to happen in 2, 3, 4 years when what you said earlier? They're looking around, realizing they were conned. What is going to happen when they realize that they were bamboozled?
The mass psychology that they've perfected is that, see, they can't tell you that it's all over with now, because we would rise up as a people for our freedoms. So they're going to let you down easy, just like they did to the Indians. They let you down easy and teach you how to be poor and how to accept being poor and poorer and poorer. And pretty soon you're going to be dependent on the government giving you food, on the government providing you jobs, if their jobs are just few. So this is dependency. It's called colonialism. It's called Indian reservations. But America is the reservation. That's why they're they're printing all this phony money. Where do you think they're getting this money? We're tapped out. It has no value. They just keep printing it because they have to let you down easy. Pretty soon, it's going to collapse.
Well, in the bill, in the stimulus bill they've passed and is now in joint committee about to be fully passed, it actually says that old people will have health care ration because it's natural for them to go blind. I have it in Bloomberg. I have the bill. I couldn't believe it when I saw it in Bloomberg 2 days ago, and I went and looked it up. It actually says that they're not going to give people health care. See, that's what their socialism is. And then they'll have the young against the old, and the people that have the government jobs, they're going to defend it and feel like they're part of the winners, just like the Indians they had, the Native Americans who sold out, who would be over the other Indians. I mean, this is a psychology. Or the house black slave. Or in Rome, they had the house slaves.
Well, you've already got a health policy based upon how the Indian health policy was developed. I'm telling you, Indian policy, and I'm saying over it, is now on the backs of Americans. So yes, you're going to have health care, but it is not going to be very good health care. And that's just going to be a fact of life. They're going to give you an aspirin when you come in with a heart seizure. It happens to us. It's going to happen to you.
Well, they don't just do that. George Bush, before he went and signed the treaty for the one-child policy in China, for Nixon, he ran the sterilization of Native Americans in the 70s, and they sterilized upwards of 40%, the numbers I've seen. I didn't believe it and looked up the documents. It was true. So you're not just going to get bad health care, you're going to get eugenics, aren't you?
Definitely, and this was the whole purpose of classifying our blood quantum. And that classifies it 1/8 or 1, and they can eliminate parts of your blood by a stroke of the pen. If your father is from a different area or your mother is from a different area, they won't count her blood, and they will mark you down as 1/4 this or 1/8 that or 3/16 that, 30 seconds. I kid you not. And that is how eugenics are used to control populations. And why aren't we? We're at less than zero population growth.
Yeah. How long until Native Americans are extinct?
Well,
at current,
there's two things. If you don't want to be poor and you want to earn a living, you leave and you go out and you intermarry, and all of a sudden you've disappeared into the mosaic that is America. All right? But it's an America that's controlled, just like the Indian reservation is gone. I'm telling you, the day is here. It's not coming. The day is here that you are the new Indian of America. It's fact. Look around you. Look around you. Your quality of life is deteriorating. Nobody's come up with a study yet on how precipitous that decline is since the housing bubble burst. But we've had some other bubbles burst up leading to that. So it's a collective effort. The family farmer and family rancher, they're on the front lines. They can tell you. They're on the front lines of being obliterated.
Wow. Well, Russell Means, I want to get you back up in the near future, and we really appreciate you joining us. The phone number for folks to call to get involved or support you is 605-867-1111, 605-867-1111, and RussellMeansFreedom.com. The site is back up, I see, and folks can certainly go visit that. And we salute you and wish you a successful mission in all of this, and we look forward to speaking to you again in the near future.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you. Take care.
All right.
Okay, folks, there goes Russell Means.